Hello, it's Andrea, and we're back today with a brand new episode, our very first of 2026. I hope your new year is off to a good start. I know things remain chaotic in the world, to say the least. But we've got a great episode for you today with someone I have been wanting to have on the show for a while, and I think some of you will be familiar with her work. Today we are talking to hoax hunter and writer Taryn Wright, who broke a number of stories about Munchausen by internet back in the 2010s, including the Warrior Eli hoax, which we're digging into today. In the meantime, we're hard at work on season 7, which is coming to you very soon. As almost always happens, there were some surprises along the way that moved our timeline a bit, but that's the show, and we think the end result will be well worth the wait. And while we are working on that, we've got a lot of ground to cover week by week here in our Case Files episodes. And we have a really special guest coming up. We'd love to hear from you, so as always, if you have feedback on something you'd like us to cover, you can send us an email at hello@nobodysshouldbelieveme.com. In the meantime, if you want to support the show, the best way to do that is to subscribe on Patreon or Apple Podcasts. You will get bonus episodes each month, and when we launch season 7, you will get the whole thing, every single episode of the season, all at once, ready to binge. And if monetary support isn't an option, no worries, you are supporting the show just by listening. And if you want to take a moment to share the show with someone who you think should hear it, or rate and review us on Apple, those things also help a great deal. We are an independent show. There is no show without you, and we are so grateful for your support. We will be right back with Taryn Wright. So, Taryn, it's so lovely to meet you. I've been familiar with your work for a while. There are many adjacencies and crossovers, and I'm really excited to dig in. If you could just start by telling us who you are and what you do in the context of what we're talking about today, which is the Warrior Eli hoax and Munchausen by internet.
So 12 years ago, I kind of stumbled into this weird world of Munchausen by internet. I had kind of been interested in it for a while. I had always sort of like, if something came up on AOL, I mean, I'm old to like Ask Jeeves and stuff. If it popped up and it was like some big hoax that somebody had like been exposed to, I was always sort of interested in it. But I really never thought that I would sort of find one or, be writing about it. I completely stumbled into this entire thing. So I had a hip injury that was pretty severe, and I ended up on bed rest for almost 2 years. So I was so bored. And one night I was on Facebook, and it was Mother's Day, and I was on Facebook just kind of flipping around. And one of my friends had written, everyone should be counting their blessings. I've heard women complain about the gifts their children gave them for Mother's Day, and this poor family just lost their mother, and she gave birth after her death. And not only that, they have a child who has cancer. So I'm as nosy as they come. So I was like, okay, I'm going to start Googling this. And I found like a Facebook prayer group. I found a Caring Bridge site, all kinds of websites that were updating on this poor little guy's battle with cancer. So they had 11 children. What I first noticed was that I'm from a big family. I have like 31 cousins on one side, and our prize pictures are just the pictures of us all together because it looks like a crazy cult or something like that, like all these tiny little toddlers. And this family had no pictures of all their children together. So I thought, well, that's kind of strange. So I just sort of started Googling the family name. They had a gigantic internet history where they had a Zanga journal. I mean, we're really going to go back there. A live journal, journals. I mean, like stuff that they had written about bands and things that they had been in. The one thing that I did not find during my Google search was any kind of record of a home that they bought, any kind of job website. I mean, their entire internet search history was just things that they had written themselves. So I was like, well, that's kind of weird, but it's Canada. Who knows? I know Chicago. I don't know Canada. But I thought, okay, well.
And this was like the 2010s too.
Yeah.
So we were we were online, but maybe not to the degree that, for our younger listeners that we are in the 2020s where, there's just a record of everything.
Right. And this was the age of blogs, which was amazing for me. I'm much more a reader than I am a video watcher when it comes to like information. So I don't think I would have ever been able to do what I ended up doing with hoax stuff if it was just like watching 2-hour videos. I mean, like I arrived at that sweet spot where people were like uploading everything about their lives, but not video. So anyway, I Googled thinking, okay, this is Mother's Day. Like, no matter what country, this is going to be a big story that this poor woman who's a trauma surgeon had been in a head-on crash, but was brought to the hospital that she worked at, gave birth to a baby after her death, and her Canadian Mountie husband arrived with her child that had cancer. I mean, that would be a news story. Nothing. Absolutely nothing. So I thought, well, that's also very strange. And then I thought, oh my gosh, what if this is, a big gigantic hoax? I started putting pictures through Google image search. Again, like I am the nosiest human. I started putting pictures through Google image search. And that's when I realized that they were taken from other places on the internet, from bloggers in different countries. And that first day of the hoax, I was really adamant to find out where the pictures came from. Like, to me, that seemed like the real victim. People who had the pictures of their child with cancer stolen, to use for this blog. Later on, I realized that other people were affected much more heavily than that. But that's kind of how it started. So I was going to, again, like the pictures were my important thing at the time. So I started emailing the people whose pictures had been taken. And it was kind of a pain in the butt to have to retype the same thing over and over again. So I just made a WordPress site just to send to people who I found their pictures. And it went viral overnight. I mean, this family they had 6,000 followers of their Facebook prayer page. They were raising money for Alex's lemonade stand after this woman's death. So they had a really big footprint in the childhood cancer community.
And so to back up just a minute, so as you kind of get like this, feeling something's up and you start digging in. But this family had been, they were very active online. They had a community online. They had a history online. So what did the world understand about the Dear family and about Dana and Eli and the father? What was the story as most people who were following it understood it at the time that you got involved? So obviously this post chronicling Dana's untimely death was the thing that brought it to your attention, but they had quite a history. So what did the world understand these folks to be before you started on this debunking journey?
They did. They had a long history on the internet and especially in the childhood cancer community. Their little boy, Eli, who I believe was like 8, maybe 7, he had been struggling with cancer for 2 years. And they chronicled this little guy's struggles, all his treatment plans and like pictures of him undergoing chemotherapy and radiation and surgeries. They were asking for, prayers and support. Actually, not prayers, just support, really, on their Facebook page. And they had a community of several thousand people that kind of followed everything that they said. The husband was JS, and he was a Canadian Mountie. And the wife was Dana, and she was a trauma surgeon at a hospital in Saskatchewan. But they had interacted with so many parents and family members of kids with cancer who it's this big, gigantic support network that they had on Facebook where they, held each other's hand through these procedures and things like that, talked on the phone, texted, stuff like that. And it had been going on for years and years. So they had quite a community that they had put together of people that believed every word that was written.
And this was not the family's first tragedy. So you mentioned that obviously their son had been struggling with cancer. Were there other sort of unusual tragedies that this family had been through?
Well, again, as I started kind of digging in, and like what I want to really say, it sounds so goofy when I put it all out there that this family had this and this happen. But keep in mind these journals and things like that were going on for 11 years. So it wasn't like every single day there was this gigantic tragedy. But so people, like I've had people that kind of say, who could have fallen for this? I mean, this is the craziest story. But if you know somebody day to day, people have crazy things happen in their lives. And again, if it's spread out over a long period of years, I don't think that people are idiots for believing it. That being said, JS's twin brother was murdered because he came out as gay and somebody didn't like that. I'm trying to think of what else happened. I mean, it was JS had, he was a single father when he met Dana. So he had 3 or 4 mothers of his children who had either like succumbed to drug abuse or they had just kind of abandoned their children very conveniently. So this gigantic family could kind of exist. He had, I mean, there really were a lot. There's always twins, I've noticed. So I think they had 2 sets of twins in their family. There was a car accident involving the twins where they posted very graphic pictures of a car that was smashed by a semi. Just things like that, like just always a lot of drama happening.
Yeah. So when you started reaching out to, and I think, something that's interesting about this story being, I'm 43. And so it's like I've lived through the evolutions of the internet. And this is a very like 2010s story, because I think this is an era where we were quite a lot more naive and innocent about the idea that the things we put online were safe to share, right?
Yes.
And like I think the idea back then that someone would like steal your photos of your children for nefarious purposes, which I think is like pretty accepted among parents now. I mean, like I don't put any pictures of my kids anywhere.
Smart.
Was more shocking then. And so what was the reaction from the people, these sort of unsuspecting victims from whom these photos had been pillaged? What was their reaction when you reached out to them?
I mean, just completely stunned, especially one set of twins belonged to a South African blogger. And she was just shocked that somebody across, the world had claimed her children as their own. The mother of the actual cancer patient, who doesn't want her name used or anything like that, but she was super concerned because there were so many pictures taken of her little son that she was worried that it would lead to a custody battle between her and her ex-husband, just because it seemed like an unsafe thing to do all of a sudden, like to document your kid's cancer battle. So it had effects on people. I mean, I think some people were completely not bothered. Other people, it was just kind of funny to them that, I mean, especially JS was like a financial bro in his like 20s or something. I mean, he was just like, okay, and, like somebody took my pictures. But, like I think that it, again, like the poor mother whose child actually had cancer was the most stunned of all.
Yeah. I mean, and that's just, you can imagine what a horrible violation that would feel like. And so you were talking about, you put together this blog really for the purposes of sort of not having to, recreate the same email over and over again. And then that people started getting involved. So tell us about this community that formed around the Warrior Eli Hoax blog. So
for the first hoax that I wrote about, the Warrior Eli one, I had thrown everything on WordPress. I included an email address for people to send me information as it came to them. So the family sent out care packages or packages of plastic bracelets, like the Live Strong bracelets that said Warrior Eli on them. They sent out pictures, like printed pictures of their kids. They sent out coloring book pages and drawings that the cancer patient Eli had done. And they sent this to tons and tons and tons of people all over the world at great expense. And so people started sending me pictures and things like that of these care packages and other information. I mean, just people that were like, okay, I was in a relationship with JS that Dana didn't know about that was online only. I mean, like there were long tendrils that this family had on the internet for years and years. And I just kind of heard about all of them through this email account. And then after the heat died down over the Warrior Eli thing, I made a Facebook group of all the people that had kind of helped me find information. And at first we're just any like group on the internet that were just like joking around and making memes out of stuff. But then as people continued to send me different blogs and things to look at, we started kind of investigating them together.
Okay. Yeah. And so I want to get a little bit more into that community and what it became. But before we get there, what did you discover about who was behind the Deer family, as you obviously, you know, the fact that these photos belong to people throughout the world and are not actually photos of the people they're claiming. So obviously we know that this is a hoax.
Yeah, spoiler alert.
What did you discover? Yeah, spoiler alert, yeah, to the shock of, I'm sure, no one listening. But what did you discover about the person who is behind all of this?
Well, it was apparently because JS had a top secret Mountie job with the Canadian Royal Police, as it happens. I mean, they apparently could not send out care packages on their own. So they had JS had his sister in Ohio send out the care packages. And it turned out that this person was behind the entire hoax. Again, spoiler alert, sorry everybody, JS and Dana and Eli and the twins and the twin brother, nobody really existed. It was all something that this woman, Emily Deer, had come up with and had been working on for 11 years since she was a very young child, really, like a preteen.
Wow. That's so extraordinary. And so it sounds like you traced this through these care packages that were going out.
Yes.
And did you get a chance to speak to Emily?
I did. I emailed her and I didn't want to, I mean, I was kind of making up rules for myself as I went along, and I was very hesitant to expose somebody. I mean, if you knew me in real life, I am like the least dramatic human. Like the fact that I was at the center of all this is kind of like, okay. And I had to come out of the closet again as like this nosy human. All my friends were like, okay, Taryn, like how many hours? I was up the first day, like 36 hours, you know, like working on this thing. And now everyone I went to high school with knows it. And it's just like, oh gosh. But anyway,
I mean, listen, I'm a true crime podcaster, so like I find this highly relatable, but yeah,
you get it. I mean, like
you're one of us.
Exactly.
You know? I really do.
But it was like, I mean, and that was a concern. The first couple of hours, I was like, this is going to be, you know, like I didn't know what was going to happen with it. Obviously, I just thought that like somebody on my Facebook feed would undoubtedly find out about this. And just because so many people were looking, I had put like a tracker. I think I had 175,000 hits like the first evening, which is crazy.
And also, again, in 2013, like that is, I mean, that's massive numbers.
Yes.
On like a WordPress blog. This is not like this is not in the current ecosystem.
Yeah, sorry. We had these things called hits that were, it's like, things have really changed. I mean, it is crazy to think of that and you look at my blog, I mean, like I have the default like WordPress background. I mean, I did like no work on this other than the writing whatsoever, because I don't have any kind of skill with any of that. But anyway, we got back to, did I talk to her? So I was like, well, before I expose this person or like write about who it is, I want to talk to them, you know, like I want to find out what's going on. I wanted to make sure I was like 100% right. So I emailed Emily and I was like, I wrote on the blog, can ED or something of Youngstown, Ohio, please email me at this address. And it took a couple of hours. And then I got this email that was like, what is going on? My brother, who is a Mountie, told me that he used pictures of other children that were around his children's age because he didn't want to use pictures of his real children on the blog. And he's grieving right now. His wife died and his son is going to die any minute. And I was like, no, you know, like Okay,
I have to ask, was there any part of you that when you got that email was like, oh, what if I'm wrong? Or you were just like, no, this person's covered. Like you were so sure at that point.
I was pretty sure. I mean, again, like my nightmare from hell would be, especially later on, I mean, writing about other hoaxes and things like that. My nightmare from hell would be I wrote about somebody and it wasn't true. I mean, like eventually I would like have a process I went through to kind of verify things, and anything that I wrote, I wanted to have like 5 or 6 different ways to prove it was the person, you know, just so I could like reassure myself. I mean, I don't want to like ruin someone's life. But yeah, at that point, it was very obvious that there was no Canadian Mountie named J.S. Deer, and no trauma surgeon who had tragically died on Mother's Day. So yeah, I didn't believe her. I asked her if we could talk on the phone. Or no, actually, she asked me if we could talk on the phone. And I mean, like my brother lived with me at the time, and I was like, oh my God, this woman wants to talk on the phone. My brother was like, don't call. I mean, it was just such a strange, like that was the time on the internet where you didn't use your real name in places, you know, just like there was nothing, like Facebook was weird at the time because people like were out there with their real name. Like AOL, they told you like never use your real name on your chat account or something like this. So it was strange to like get a phone call from somebody I didn't know on the internet at that time. But she called and she had like a story that she had made it up. She had a story of why she made it up, that she was going through a hard time. She had just had a miscarriage. Her mother had cancer, I believe. I mean, like another kind of sob story, explaining why she did it. And I believed every word at that point, which again, like the funny thing is like, I've written about all this stuff and yet I'm so naive and so many, like I tend to just believe people. And then it's just like, why? Why would you believe this person? But yeah, I found out later that all of that was not true. But yeah, she admitted that she did it. And I right away, again, like I should say, no psychological training, nothing like that. So right away I was like, she sounds very flat sounding. I mean, her voice sounded flat, emotionless. I struggled with depression in my 20s. So I was like, oh, she has depression. So I kind of said to her, do you have depression? And she's like, yes, I have depression. So she wrote a I'm sorry email and I posted it thinking that was the end of it, you know, thinking that what else can this person do other than say that they're sorry.
And how old was she when you talked to her?
She was a medical student, which was concerning for sure. I believe she was 25.
And so she'd started this when she was 14 or 15?
I think so. Yeah. It had been going on for 11 years. So it started just like as a creative writing. I mean, the funny thing is like, I am an actual writer and her output was like amazing compared to mine in that time. So I said to her, you should write novels or something. Like you should write something with these characters, or sorry, cat in the background. And, she was very offended that I said that she should like write fiction. So, and I've had that experience with several other hoaxers where like fiction isn't
interesting.
It doesn't hit the same like nerve that they want, you know, like the part of their brain that they want, the dopamine hit to.
It's so fascinating because, I mean, you know, this is very well trod territory for us, right? Of like sort of the moment of confrontation, you sort of get the denial and then sort of the excuse of like, well, all these traumatic things happen and that's why I did it. I mean, that's something that's come up a lot on the show. Did you get at any points, you said you were kind of talking about some of her mental health issues. Did you get more of a sense eventually of what had maybe inspired her to create this entire, you know, alternate reality online?
I did not. Honestly, that was the only time that she and I talked. And I think that it just got so big so quickly. And I think she probably had people that were telling her not to talk to anyone. And I think that probably was a smart idea on her part. Just because, again, like who knew that it was going to blow up the way it did? So I've heard from people that know her, and that were like stunned that she had done something like this. And, you know, I'm sure she had something going on, but like, I don't know specifically what it was.
Yeah. And so you'd mentioned that they had been doing some fundraising, but was it personal fundraising or was it fundraising on behalf of an organization in this case?
It was on behalf of Alex's Lemonade Stand. And I think that purposely they made sure.
And that's what is Alex's Lemonade Stand?
Oh, it's a childhood cancer charity that is really well known. It raises money for families that are going through pediatric cancer treatment with their kids. And it's gigantic. Now, even at Aldi, they have a fundraiser I'm a gigantic Aldi fan. They have a fundraiser for Alex's Lemonade Stand. So that was my first time hearing about it, but it is a great, very legitimate charity. I felt bad. Again, like you couldn't know what was going to happen, but I felt bad kind of dragging them into it because they ended up having to like refund donations and things like that. So yeah, that was rough. But I'm trying to think, what was the question you asked? I'm sorry, Andrea.
Oh, yeah. No, I just wanted to sort of back up about the, about the fundraising piece, because of course, something that we hear a lot about, and I know some of the stories that you've covered have involved fraudulent fundraising that was just via something like a GoFundMe, where it was just going directly to the person, right? So that sort of struck me as a different element that, yes, she's doing fraudulent fundraising, but at least it sort of was being directed towards legitimate organization, and she wasn't pocketing the money.
Right. And that's what makes it so interesting to me, is that the hoaxers that I really enjoyed writing about, or that I found most interesting, were the ones that weren't doing any kind of fraudulent fundraising, that were kind of, I mean, like anybody can kind of use a computer and the internet and GoFundMe as like a tool. a bank robbery uses a gun, like it's something similar to that. But the fact that she just she had 81 fake Facebook profiles. And when you think of that, I mean, that's 81 fake email accounts, keeping track of the passwords, like her Facebook profile was the one thing that made me, or not hers, the Deer's. I'm sorry, the pronouns get so confusing when I'm talking about this thing. The Deer family they were way more active on Facebook than I had ever been. I mean, like like one person would comment and then other people would comment too, and it turned out that they were all fake. So it was just wild. I mean, like, wow. It still kind of blows my mind.
This elaborate web.
Yeah, and just the time that had to be spent on that, and medical school. I mean, it's crazy to think about.
And she was legitimately a medical student?
She was. She had dropped out several weeks before this whole thing happened. But she definitely legitimately was a medical student while she was doing this blog, which is not I had another one that was very similar that had to leave medical school because she was perpetuating a fraud like this. A lot of nurses. I mean, it's kind of crazy. People go for those jobs.
Yeah, no, that's really, I mean, that comes up a lot on the show. So you spoke to Emily, and then you posted on the blog this apology letter. And what did she say in her apology, and how did people react?
I can't remember the exact wording, but it was something to the effect of she was raising awareness of childhood cancer when she was doing it, and that she was very sorry. One woman had sent her a blanket, like a hand knit blanket, and she did return that. But I think that was the only actual gift that she had taken from anyone. So she said, I was raising awareness of childhood cancer. I was really young when it started. I'm very sorry. And I thought, well, that's it. I mean, what more could people want? Again, so naive, man. The comments section exploded where people wanted to chop off her head and put it on a pike and carry it around. I mean, I didn't realize at that point the anger that was out there for somebody that would do something like this. And I didn't realize how many people she had interacted with who had kids with cancer.
Yeah. So what came to light about how many people got pulled into this story? And you were talking earlier about how, your sort of impression in the beginning about who got hurt was the idea of she stole these photos from these people, one of whom is a parent of a child that legitimately has cancer. That's obviously a huge violation. That was kind of the victim here. What did you learn as this progressed about who else had gotten pulled into this web?
Well, she had very much represented herself as an advocate for families that were going through the same thing that their family was going through with the child with cancer. She had befriended tons and tons of parents who had kids with cancer. One parent told me that she had left the deathbed of her child to console J. Esther about bad news that they had about a scan about Eli. And she'll never get that time back. I mean, that kind of hit me in a way that I didn't get it before. But it was crazy to see, again, I don't use the internet like a lot of people did back then, which was Facebook for a lot of people was just, I follow 2,000 prayer pages for kids with cancer. And I offer support and things like that. I ended up having to delete my Facebook just because it was getting, so many people that had cancer or children with cancer had friended me that it was super duper depressing to open Facebook. So I couldn't do it. But some people are very much nicer and kinder than I am. And they just kind of use Facebook to show support to people. I really underestimated how much people would grieve JS and Dana and Eli, even though they didn't exist. I mean, their brains still went through a grief process that they had been close to this family and now they were gone. And plus the anger that they felt towards Emily, who had perpetuated the whole thing. It was intense. I mean, people were very, very upset that they had, comforted this family, that they had taken advice, medical advice from this family. It really did open a lot of wounds.
It is really intense. And that must have been intense for you to sort of unexpectedly find yourself at the epicenter of it.
It was. I mean, I'm very, I should say at that time, I didn't know anybody close to me that had cancer. And I think that was a huge reason that I was able to kind of be in the middle, I didn't really take a side one way or the other. I think the people I wrote about did something terrible. At the same time, I don't think that they should have to suffer for it for the rest of their lives. You know, like, I think that people make mistakes, and I don't think anybody in a happy part of their life, you know, like living a life that they enjoy, goes home and pretends to be a mother of a kid that's dying of cancer. Like, that just to me suggests that there's something going on either mentally or psychologically, like, who knows. But I will say that now I've had somebody very close to me that had cancer, and I went through it with them, and I can understand the anger a lot more now, like a lot more. So, again, like, I was naive to think that this was like, okay, this woman said she did it, like, let's move on. I was naive to think that there wouldn't be, you know, like bruises and things like that left behind.
Yeah, well, and it's interesting, you know, something you just said about the idea of people being very online and specifically following the cancer journeys of children they don't know. And, you know, you sort of framed that as, oh, like, that's someone who's really empathetic and caring. And I think my response to that is maybe, or maybe something else.
Yes.
And indeed, as this community developed around the hoax hunting part of this, right? As you said, you sort of gathered all of the people who were involved in this onto a Facebook group, and it was, you know, kind of an affinity group, and you know, you had a sort of collective moment of people helping you get to the bottom of this. So tell us a little bit about what happened with that group. Yeah, and what sort of became of that project once you moved on from this initial sort of bomb about Emily Deer?
Well, it's super gross, just a warning. So again, I had started this group that with people that had provided me information, and some other people kind of joined it. Altogether, there ended up being about 100 members. Like, I think maybe Facebook was suggesting it for a while for groups to join. So I had 100 members. And again, like, we started out just kind of like goofing around, making memes and things like that. There was one, I got several people in the group that messaged me and said, hey, what's going on with this Father James Puryear? I wonder how you pronounce that, Puryear. So I looked at their profile, and definitely like a younger guy. I thought that they were a trans person. Like, I just thought that this was a trans man. And then I thought, oh, these women, you know, like, I'm so happy that I live in such a progressive city, because these women obviously, like, have never run into a trans person before, and they think this person is faking, and in reality, they're just living their lives, and like, oh, aren't I lucky? Pat on the back, wonderful person that I am.
And was James a member of the group?
Yes, James was a member of the group and had helped with the second hoax that I worked on. Which I think was like a person that said that they lost a baby in a car accident, and they did not. Yeah, there's a lot of sad stories involved. Luckily, they're all fake, so that's a good thing. But anyway, he had helped.